So what are we talking about today?
Oh, you know what we're talking about, Jennifer.
Dreams, dreams, dreams.
Dreams, your favorite.
What about dreams though? What are we getting into?
Well, did you guys record your dreams or, journal any dreams? Notice, take note of?
I did. I had one night where I had a dream. How about you guys?
One night, one dream.
One dream? Okay. Well,
Oh,
I'm sure I had more. I just only remember the one.
okay.
I had a lot, but only one that was like, whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a
me
very
too.
active dreaming week.
I'm so
So
jealous.
I know.
We
And
should
one of the
schedule this.
dreams, the one I had last night, was about the podcast.
Oh,
I know. That was
so
fun too.
let's start with that one. Let's break that dream down.
Okay. In preparation for this podcast, I've been setting intentions every night for dreams to come through. And last night, the dream that came through was one about our podcast, which was super exciting. Yay. And here's the dream. Both of you, Candace and Jennifer and myself, we were all in a Catholic church. And I have a Catholic upbringing, so that's how I was raised. So that's where that comes from. The Catholic Church was an old historical cathedral-like vibe. So it had, stonework. It was made out of bricks. It had like the wooden benches. It was very ornate and just felt very deep with history. And while we were in this church, we were trying to record the podcast because that's where you go to record a podcast, right? The Catholic Church. So we were in the church and we were trying to record the podcast, and it was us three, but there were other women there as well. So, and they were also helping us to record the podcast. It was like us, but more. And, I probably saw 6 or 7 different women, but I feel like there were even more than that there that I didn't really notice. While we were trying to record the podcast, there were sounds that kept causing distractions. And they would be like everyday sounds, like somebody would be walking and, oh, we need to record that again. Or somebody might be coughing or some noise of rustling. So it was like everyday sounds were causing us trouble to record. And and that was the dream. I mean, that was it. It was really, really short, just kind of a snippet. And we were still recording, but we were a little bit frustrated. So that was the emotion with the dream because all of us were trying to get this done and it wasn't working out. So I went on to ChatGPT, put in the dream, and asked for the interpretation, which is fascinating to do that.
Mhm.
And of course, they gave me all kinds of things. The first thing they said is sacred space and purpose. So, a church symbolizes spirituality, tradition, and deep reflection. So, this suggests that our podcast is something very sacred. And I thought, okay, that feels right.
Mhm.
The tan stone and wooden benches suggest stability, history, and endurance, meaning your podcast might feel like something that is lasting and it's an important mission, building a foundation.
Nice.
And the historical feel of the church is you may be tapping into something bigger than yourself, perhaps even ancestral or spiritual wisdom. So I really liked that because, Catholic Church to me, I have some positive feelings, but I have some negative feelings with that as well. But this really resonated. So it says your subconscious could be reaffirming that your work has a higher purpose, even if outside forces disrupt it. The second part is the presence of extra women in the dream and the fact that everybody in the church was female. It was all women. It says both your real life podcast co hosts and additional unknown women suggest a shared feminine consciousness at play.
Mhm.
So, a working together on the divine feminine, bringing forward that feminine energy and that it's bigger than just the three of us. The unknown women could represent aspects of yourself, hidden talents, voices yet to be expressed. So, parts of me and us that we haven't revealed but are at the ready to show themselves. And the idea that multiple women are trying to record could reflect different perspectives or energies influencing the messages. And then the last thing that they talked about was the everyday noises and the interference and the disruptions. So they suggest external distractions, making it difficult to express ourselves. It can reflect frustrations in waking life, like feeling like your message is sometimes drowned out by distractions, technical difficulties, or external expectations. And I know I have feelings of worrying about, does our message get out there because there is so much social media out there. So
Mhm.
that's something that I know is my own concern. And the noises could also symbolize energetic interference, representing subconscious fears, doubts, or societal expectations that make it harder to fully express your voice. The overall message is the dream highlights a contrast between the sacred and the mundane. It can suggest an inner desire to bring spiritual wisdom into everyday life, perhaps making sacred conversations more accessible or integrating divine messages into practical experiences. So it's all about how to balance deep spiritual work with real world distractions. And it's funny, as I read that, it resonates. I'm like, yeah, I do have those emotions. They are all things that are working within me. And so it's fascinating to look at that and have an understanding of what's going on. And then you can move forward with more knowledge.
Are you feeling like there's resistance from the outside world about you being able to get your message out there and you being able to spread kind of the divine guidance and wisdom that we're trying to spread? Is that kind of where like you feel like this, like, is this a fear dream? Is this an anxiety dream that came through?
I don't know because the emotions in the dream were not super fearful.
Hmm.
In the dream, it was more like little annoyances and frustrations rather than big fear, you know? And then is it, inner resistance that I have to doing the work? I don't know.
So it could be a little bit of the subconscious coming out, trying to
Mm-hmm.
work out some of those subconscious beliefs, those
Yeah.
subconscious fears or
Mm-hmm.
frustrations.
For sure. For sure.
Interesting. It is funny how when we take a look at our dreams, not all of our dreams are just like fluffy, mean nothing kind of dreams. It's like our subconscious trying to work out things through dream state. Because we talked about this just recently, that when you're asleep, your body and your brain feel more comfortable to work certain things out. So dreams come up so you can work through certain aspects of your mind, aspects of your life, or even heal things. We did a dream podcast quite a while back. I think it was like the summer of 2023, maybe. Um, yeah, that sounds right. And we talked about dreams. And in that time when we were talking about dreams, I had three consecutive dreams every single night that like were sequels of one another that kind of helped me work through some old traumas that I was working through. So I want to say that just so we remember not to discount all of our dreams, but maybe this is an invitation to go visit some of your dreams, especially those ones that really are vivid and stand out. We're really obsessed with ChatGPT right now and having a
Yeah.
lot of fun using the guidance that ChatGPT can give us. And, I know people have their opinions about AI, but having that system be able to interpret your dreams for you gives you a deeper insight into what might really be going on a more subconscious level so that you can work it out on a conscious level in your everyday life.
Candace, you said you had one dream.
I did.
What'd you
I
dream about?
did. Mine. I feel like everything with me is so dramatic lately and so intense. And it is. It is. I don't love that, but this wasn't a dramatic dream that kind of ended up being a foreshadow of my day, which
Ah,
was really interesting. And it wasn't like a direct premonition, but it was the foreshadow of events that followed. So I had this wild dream where I was dropping my youngest daughter off at an institution. My youngest is 6, and I'm dropping her off at an institution. I knew I wouldn't see her for months and months and months. And it was finally the day to go pick her up. And me and my oldest daughter and my husband all traveled together in this really junky van where it was like rusty, falling apart, terrible, horrible van. And we drove up to the institution where we dropped her off. And this institution is on a sketchy street with buildings falling apart, very dark outside. And looking at the building looks scary and haunted and like it's falling apart. And I'm thinking, I cannot believe we left my daughter here. I can't believe we did this to her. And I realize I'm unprepared and I'm in a pair of pajamas. My hair's up in a messy bun like it is today. And I thought I packed clothes and I'm looking through this crappy van looking for my clothes that I packed because we were supposed to be going to an event too. And I didn't have anything nice to wear. And so I ended up tying my nightgown like into a t-shirt, putting a sweater on or leaving my coat on, and then borrowing a pair of my husband's sweatpants. And right. And I feel the feeling there was I'm unprepared and I feel trashy for the
Oh,
lack of a better word. So as I'm putting on these junky pairs of sweatpants that aren't even my own, I noticed that there's a kitten that hitched a ride with us, like this really sweet, adorable kitten. And I pick up this kitten and I'm like, we got to save the kitten. And my husband's like, no, we're not going to save the kitten. And he takes the kitten and he goes to a trash bin and he throws the kitten away. And then he takes another trash bin and puts the
oh,
lid over the kitten.
oh my God.
Now, my husband would never do this in real life. He would never do this in real life. But it was my subconscious working something out through him. So he puts this trash can on the kitten, and I'm devastated. And I'm like, no, that's like, we got to take care of that kitten, release the kitten. Eventually, the kitten gets released. We move on. We're going up to the institution to pick up our daughter. We have this very nice, like, moment where we all get to reconnect. And then suddenly the scene changes and we're walking into the building. I'm still dressed the same, but now it's no longer about picking up our daughter that we dropped off at the institution. It's now about our oldest daughter's celebration of some kind of like milestone or like, I don't know, graduation or religious ceremony that is happening. And there's all of these tables set out. All these people are dressed so nice. And I'm in my junky t-shirt, my husband's sweatpants, and a messy bun and no makeup. And I'm looking around going, oh my God, I look so trashy. I was like, whatever, we're going to enjoy the night. And I'm looking for a table, and my husband won't sit with us. Like he keeps bouncing around from people to table to table to person. And I'm like, with my youngest child, feeling like I'm totally 100% responsible for caring for her, that I don't have the freedom to go talk with everybody else that I want to go talk with. And so none of us can agree on where to sit. So we end up all sitting separately. I'm with my youngest daughter at one table. I see my oldest daughter at her own table and my husband at his own table. And my husband occasionally comes back to visit. And I remember feeling so frustrated. Like if we were to just communicate together as a family, all of this could have been avoided. We all would have been able to sit with each other, and we all would be like being able to enjoy this milestone of our daughters together instead of separately. And then I woke up. And of course, I went to ChatGPT and I was like, well, what was that dream about? Because that was
Right.
weird. What ChatGPT said didn't make sense to me at the time. So I went about my day. I had events that happened that felt very much like the dream that I had had. So that day, I was in a slump all day long. I was dealing with my own anger and my grief and my sadness about just random things happening in my life. And I was in sweatpants all day long in a junky sweater, my hair up in a messy bun with makeup on from the day before. And I had to go take my youngest daughter to the doctors, to a specialist to go get her tonsils looked at because she's got enlarged tonsils. And I have a fear that I'm going to have that we're going to have to go through a surgery with her and get her tonsils taken out. I've never had surgery. I've never had my tonsils taken out. It's the last thing I want for my little child is to have to experience a surgery. I feel like there's probably a lot of trauma that comes from having a surgery like that. And I'm not stable enough to handle something like that with my kids. So I was already really worked up about this idea of having to go visit the doctor. And on our way to the doctor, I see a deer who had been hit by a car and it was still alive and it was sitting up. And it was just horrific for me to see that. And I immediately went from like survival mode of like trying to just shut up the feelings and just get the things done to emotional. So I was a wreck when I showed up at this doctor's office. I couldn't concentrate on a single thing that they said, and it wasn't that bad. Like what happened at the doctor's office wasn't that big of a deal, but my body saw everything as a really big deal because of the emotional state that I was in. So I went home that day and I took a nap, and I realized that the event of that morning had to do with my dream of dropping my daughter off at an institution. It was my fear about leaving her in the hands of a medical care provider and having thoughts or questions or insecurities about what might happen if I were to have this appointment. It was just like all of the subconscious stuff coming up that I hadn't really allowed myself to fear or think about before. And so I'm sleeping, I'm taking a good old nap, letting my body rest. And my daughter wakes me up, my oldest, and she's like, Mom, you got to take me to gymnastics. And I'm looking at myself, totally a wreck. Like I had been crying that day. My hair's still up in a messy bun, still have makeup on from the night before, never changed out of my sweatpants. And now I have to go take my daughter to gymnastics. Well, I start driving out of town and I realize, oh my God, I forgot my phone. And my daughter goes, don't worry about it. Just leave your phone. Leave it at home. And I was like, something in me was like, no, you need to turn around and go get your phone because something might happen to you. So I turned around and I got my phone and I dropped my daughter off at gymnastics. And on my way out of town, which is about 30 minutes from where we live, my car breaks down. I hear a pop in my car and I see all of this smoke come out of my car and I have to turn down a street. And I didn't have a choice of where to go. So I parked my car on a street that was a little sketchy, kind of falling apart. The houses were dwindling, needed a little work. And I'm completely unprepared. I have my phone, thank God I went back. But like, again, that is exactly what happened in my dream. My junky car fell apart and I had to park on a street that was completely falling apart too. And I was unprepared and I looked like a mess. And so I'm sitting in the car crying, just like letting out all of the tears and bawling. And my poor daughter's like, Mom, it's going to be okay. The neighbor across the street who saw me came walking up and like, he's like, ma'am, I think it's just, I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think it's the end of the world from the smell of it. It smells like an easy fix. Like I kind of have an idea of what's going on here. And I know that I look like I'm having a very big reaction to something that would not be that big of a deal, but it was a day. It was a day that was triggering beyond belief. And my dream totally like led me to all of the events of the day. Am I making sense? That's a lot of words. My husband has to come save me. I'm feeling incredibly vulnerable and raw and emotional. And my reaction, I know, was much bigger than the situation really called for because my nervous system doesn't know the difference between like what is minor and what is major because I have PTSD. So I immediately go into kind of a PTSD trauma response. And that's really, really difficult for people in my environment to understand what I'm going through when I get there. So I'm feeling exposed, I'm feeling raw, I'm feeling deeply emotional. And it takes me hours and hours and hours to come out of a PTSD level reaction like that. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience. And I didn't get necessarily the kind of time and patience that I would need because I'm still learning about what happens to me when I have these kind of reactions. And I'm still learning how to ask for my needs when I'm having these kinds of reactions. So I go back to ChatGPT and I ask kind of what all of this was. And she said that this was like a mirroring of my day. This was kind of a premonition of sorts of what my day was going to look at. But I had asked the night before for me to work out anything in my subconscious that was like blocking, that was keeping me from my manifestations and from my dreams, but especially to work out all of the anger that I have had recently that I've been holding on to or that I've been working through. And that's the dream that came up. And that opened up an entire can of worms for me and for my family because now I have this PTSD level reaction that I have to figure out how to cope with while also speaking my needs and setting boundaries, which is incredibly difficult. So it's like everything that I've learned over the past 6 years, that event was asking me to apply all of my knowledge, apply all of my boundaries, apply all of my skills in being able to communicate with for what I need and advocate for myself in that one moment. So it was an incredibly emotional, deeply healing day for me, even though it felt so big and volatile in the moment, but it ended up leading to a lot of really good conversation between me and my husband, a lot of really good connection, and then eventually led to really good conversations with our oldest daughter, which I feel like is just opening up this new level of communication in the family that we haven't had before. Long story long.
So, okay, so you set the intention, then you had the dream, and then you had the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, if you had not set the intention, do you think those events would have still happened?
Hmm.
Oh, that is a good question.
Right? Did you open the door to this experience by setting that intention and just letting the universe and your spiritual team and whoever know that you were ready for this kind of it's almost like a test, really, or
Yeah.
an event to give you more information?
I would be afraid to say for sure that's the reason because I'm never ever going to ask for help ever again at this point. Like
You're done.
That's it, I'm done.
that was big. That was really big.
Yeah.
I think it's both. I think I felt I've been going through, we know, I've been going through a lot within the last couple of weeks, and anger being one of them. Anger that's coming up a lot for me about not being able to advocate for myself or protect myself. So the fact that this happened, and what I asked for was to help me work through the anger that I was feeling lately. And the anger is around not being able to protect or advocate for myself. And so the events that followed forced me to advocate for myself, it forced me into some big emotional states that I think what is underneath some of that anger is also a lot of grief. So it forced me to do a lot of crying as well. It's hard to say whether the chicken or the egg came first in this situation. I think that they play into each other, and um, I don't know that it would have necessarily impacted me the same way if I hadn't asked. The events might have still happened, but I might not have had the same reaction if I wasn't intentionally working on releasing this anger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way to know for sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
But I'm going to be careful about what I ask for from now on.
Oh
yeah,
God, yeah.
for sure.
Oh.
Oh, gosh. Okay, Jennifer, tell us about your dream.
Well, my experience was a little different. So I did go in like the first night just gung ho, like, okay, give me dreams. I just give me what I need to work on. Whatever you see fit, whatever. So I think 2 nights went by, no dreams at all. And I think on like Wednesday or Thursday, I started getting really into remembering some past lives and questioning some past life stuff. So I thought, hey, why not ask for that for, my dream, for my dreams, whatever. So I went to bed, asked for some past life stuff to dream about. And I had one little dream. I remembered just an itty bitty part of it. I was looking at a book, and inside the book was like an ancient language, and it was the page was divided into four squares, like blocks, and in each block was one word in an ancient language. And it was almost as if I was learning this language, but it felt familiar to me at the same time. So, yeah, I'm just going to read you what ChatGTP said because, I like her word for word information that she gives you. Okay, so she says that's a powerful and intriguing dream. Ancient books often symbolize wisdom, hidden knowledge, or a connection to deeper truths, perhaps even past life knowledge or ancestral wisdom. The four block division could represent balance, like the four elements, four directions, or four pillars of understanding. The fact that the words were in an ancient language suggests that the knowledge is there, but it's not yet fully accessible to your conscious mind. You might be in the process of unlocking new levels of spiritual understanding, possibly through your remote viewing, psychometry, or intuitive development, which all I've been working on. Sometimes dreams like this aren't just symbolic, but also initiatory. Your subconscious or guides could be preparing you to receive deeper knowledge.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, isn't it good?
I
I
want
was
to
like,
dream like that.
I was for sure like typing it in there, going, this is nothing. This is going to mean nothing. And then she comes back with this whole explanation. I'm like, shit, I did go to bed saying I wanted to do something with my past lives. I wanted to know more. So who knows? I don't know.
Okay, well, that's what I'm going to start asking for. No more of this deep healing stuff. I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
We're all done
Right.
with it. Okay, we're gonna do the fun past life magical world. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I love that.
Me too.
Has anything come from that since?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. Not yet. But I'm like, I'm still working with those things. So maybe it's just in time. Well, it came up because we were doing remote viewing and you had a question that maybe I did really well on certain remote viewings because I had past life connections.
Mm.
So that's where this whole thing of questioning that came from. Still don't know how that relates to this lifetime though.
Was that your intention, was to understand your past lifetimes and how they related to this lifetime?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm just wondering if that the book of ancient wisdom just had connections there. It says that's incredible. If you could read the words even partially, it suggests that this ancient language is already embedded in in your consciousness in some way, perhaps from a past life, a soul memory, or even something you're in the process of reawakening. The feeling of it being both familiar and unfamiliar aligns with the idea of remembering something long forgotten. It's like you're reconnecting with knowledge that has always been a part of you but was dormant until now. Oh, and then she says it feels like an invitation. Something is calling you to explore this deeper. So she gave me suggestions on meditations and stuff before sleep.
well, those are three very different dreams.
Very. Usually my dreams are a lot more detailed than that.
Usually my dreams aren't so foreshadowing of my day
Yeah. Yeah.
or so triggering.
Okay, so as you can see, there are lots of ways that dreams can talk to you, can work with you, or you can work with your dreams. And the dreams really are your subconscious working things out most of the time, but there are other things that might happen in your dreams too. If you want to work with your dreams, there are specific things that you can do to invite that into your conscious mind. And what all three of us did is we set an intention as we were going to sleep. We set an intention that we wanted to work with our dreams. And by setting that intention, you are telling the subconscious mind that you're open for communication. Now, some people will say, I never remember my dreams. And that's okay. That's okay. You can still work within the dream world, even if you don't remember it. You can still set intentions that I would like my dreams to help me with this or with that. And even if you don't remember it, things can still be happening below the surface. But you can also start intentionally working with your dreams, and that might foster the ability to remember more. So, what are some concrete things that you can do to really get working with your dreams? The first thing is setting an intention. As you go to sleep, you can set an intention of, I would like to remember my dreams. And it might not work the first night. It might not work after a week or a month, but eventually it will. You can also set an intention of how you would like your dreams to help you. And that can elicit a different type of dream response. For example, Jennifer set the intention that she wanted to work with a past life. So she got a very different experience than the experience Candace and I had. Another good thing to do is actually to keep a dream journal. Jennifer, I think you do that. I think you're
Hmm.
really good about that, whereas I'm sometimes just too lazy to actually, record things, but I do think about them.
I only
But
record them in the morning.
well, that's
I don't,
better
yeah,
than,
yeah. I don't wake up in the middle of the night and do it.
oh gosh, yeah, that would be hard.
Hmm.
I find that when I do get into the habit of recording them in one way or another, then it amps up the dreams the
Hmm.
following night
It
and the
does.
night after that.
It does. Just trying to remember small little details, even about your dreams, will help you recall the next dream.
Yeah, it's like by journaling, you're sending the message that you're open to really experiencing that, and it
Yeah.
will help. It will help. Looking for patterns or symbols, noticing things that are repeating in your dreams over and over again. Also, like just like we did, taking a dream and putting it into ChatGPT or some other type of AI and just seeing what is the meaning behind that. And that's food for thought. That is, these are great ideas. And think about what they offer. Does that feel right? Does that apply? And then how can I use that information to help me move forward in my life in the very best way? I loved this idea. Dream re-entry. Sometimes you have a dream and you're in the middle of a dream and it abruptly ends. You wake up for whatever reason and you want to know how it ends. Sometimes I can make myself go back to sleep and I can go back into the dream, which is awesome when that happens, but I can't always do that. So then what I do is I just go into a meditation and I imagine the way I would want the dream to end.
Mm.
That's awesome. It's like I get to make up my own ending, which, is usually always a happy ending.
I've been able to do that re-entry into dreams only twice before. And it was the coolest thing in the world because I remember waking up once from a dream and being really ticked off because I'm like, I was not done with that. I want to be put back in that dream right now. And I remember closing my eyes. And the next thing I know, I was opening my eyes and I was back in the dream. I was like, I didn't even have time to fall back to sleep. How did this happen? And I was lucid. So it was the neatest thing.
Tell us though, I'm interested. What is a lucid dream?
Oh, it's where you know you're dreaming.
Mhm.
You're in a dream state. So you get to control your dream if you're really good at it.
And the other thing that is really interesting that you can maybe work with is in your dream state, sometimes you can meet with family or friends that have passed to the other side. And that is a really fun thing to explore in your dreams. And sometimes it just happens, but sometimes it can be an attention that you set. I would like to meet with so and so in my dreams and just send out that invitation to that energy, that spirit. And they may or may not come,
Mhm.
but a lot of times you can meet with people that have deceased in your dreams and they can come in different ways. Sometimes it's a real visitation. Sometimes it's your own mind working things out. And there are kind of some clues that you can use to know the difference. So if you're in a dream and a loved one that has passed is there in the dream, and it feels calm. You feel happy to be around that person. It feels peaceful. There's no fear. Then chances are that they are really there visiting you from the other side. It's a doorway. If you're dreaming of somebody that's passed and the dream is very fearful or angry, or you have lots of anxiety, then it could be your subconscious mind working through emotions that you have from that relationship. So it might not be them, but they're their participation in the dream might be really more symbolic to help you work through those feelings. But usually you can kind of know the difference. And what's cool, at least in my experience, is they usually appear healthy, strong. A lot of times they'll appear younger than they were when they passed. I remembered I asked one of the spirits, why do you look like this? And like, well, I don't want to look like my old self. I want to look like my young self. What would you pick? They were almost offended that I would even ask that question. So dreaming can be a good opportunity to work with people that are on the other side.
I do that often.
Really?
Hmm.
How often?
I don't, a couple times a year. I think that's pretty often.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's either, I mean, I've had friends that I no longer speak to who have popped into my dreams, after they've passed. All my relatives have come into my dreams. And the thing about those dreams is they're almost lucid dreams to me. They're just too real. And the fact that I can remember them in so much detail upon awakening, I mean, that too is, it's real when it feels that real. You're getting a hug from your dead grandfather and it feels so real that you wake up crying. It was real.
I'm thinking about the dreams that I've had where deceased loved ones have visited. And in most of them, at least in my experience, they really don't talk.
Mm,
They're there. Sometimes they're there in the background. Sometimes they're, a major player in the dream. And it's almost like I'm getting information from them through feelings and through energy rather than any words that they're speaking. I don't know why
hmm.
that is. And maybe that's just my own thing. I don't know.
I get a mixture of both. My grandmother, she's always talking to me when she comes to my dreams.
Do you think it depends on how soon they had passed when you're dreaming about them, or even what state they were in when they passed?
In my experience, and that's all I can really relate to, is that I usually don't dream about them right after they pass. It's
Hmm.
usually a little while after, maybe a month, maybe a few months, but I don't know why that is.
The ones where I don't know that they've passed, I usually have dreams about them a few nights before they passed or during that morning, I guess, that during that week that they passed. And I would find out about it later.
Mm.
But for all my loved ones where I knew they were passing, my mom did visit me 3 days before she died too. So I'm just really disappointed I only had one dream this week. I was like, all right, here it comes. I'm going to have dreams galore. I'm going to have so much to talk about on the podcast.
Mm.
Like radio silence. It was quiet.
Well, the dream you had was really cool
The
and
dream
really
was
magical.
really cool. Yeah.
You know what? I have had channelings where I see symbols of ancient language too.
Okay.
And I posted something about it on social media, and somebody wrote, like, made a comment about it being like a form of light language that we're receiving. And I
Oh.
certainly know that when I'm in a channeling state or when we're doing energy work and we're receiving that kind of energy, that there's like a whole internal energetic layer of healing that we're receiving at the same time. So I would venture to say that dream work is exactly the same way. It's another form of channeling energy, another form of or entering into a new realm of energy. And if
Mm,
you're in it, like, what are you receiving while you're in there? What kind of energetic healings are you getting, or shifts and changes in your system that you're receiving that now has to go through an integration period?
hmm.
So I wouldn't, if I were your guides, I'd be like, don't give her anything else. She just saw ancient language and she's going to take like 3 weeks to integrate this new information.
Right, right. No more dreams for at least 3 weeks, guys.
We don't need to add on to this energy. We just need her to integrate this one.
Right.
And that's
Mm.
probably why I only got that one intense dream too. We
Yeah.
haven't been working. That was like the day after we decided this was the podcast that we were going to do this week. And it was that night that I had that dream. And I've been working through the aftermath of those emotions ever since.
So about a week.
So about a week. I think that's a good place to remind people that when you're asking for guidance, when you're asking your guides to participate or to work through things in your dreams, whether it's fun or healing or a visitation from someone, that you have to trust the timing of it. You have to trust that your guides are going to give you exactly what you need and what you can handle in the time that you asked for it. And if that means you receive nothing, trust that's for a good reason right now.
There are some things that you can do before bedtime that can help promote better dreaming or remembering your dreams. Avoid screens before
Mm.
you go to bed, maybe an hour or two. Put away the screens. Avoid heavy meals right before you go to bed.
Mm.
You can do practices like deep breathing or meditation. That's going to help calm your nervous system down. It's going to help you open up. And you can use herbs that make you more calm, like think chamomile or lavender tea. Those things can help you to be more calm and more relaxed and open you up to dreams. So those are some practices that may help you really connect with your dreams and encourage the dream process.
And you could sleep with an amethyst under your pillow, and that'll help with dream recall. Well, that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.